All right, everybody, welcome back. This is Season 2, Episode 8 of the Dead Air Radio podcast. I'm your host, Steve Fletch. My co-host here, Mitch Hartman. Mitch, how's it going?
Fantastic. Sitting here living the life of a corporate sellout.
Likewise. This episode, we've been getting into a lot of the bigger shoe companies. We've been talking a lot about shoes, and there's a lot of smaller, skater-owned shoe companies out there, and I guess this would be just I guess we're going to pretend we're the brand managers of these companies and what we would do to try and have them compete with the bigger guys. Is that a safe way to put it?
Yeah, or just observations we've seen talking to people. Like, a lot of people's feedback was like, well, what about the skater-owned? And we're like, well, what's your take on this? And like, I talked to a bunch of people about it this week. So it'd be interesting to see, like, we spitball a brand and see what we think about what they could do.
All right. So I have a couple brands that I picked out, right? And I'm going to put them in a hat. We'll randomize this. And we'll pick one out and go from there. So I think I have 5 or 6. I think there's 6 in here. All right. First one. State Footwear. All right. Mitch, are you familiar with State Footwear?
I'm not familiar with State Footwear. I mean, I know what it is, but definitely not on my radar. No one around here carries it. So I can't say. I don't think I've ever seen a pair in hand.
Right. So I remember when State started, and they had started with, it was Ben Gore, who I think they took a bunch of Cons Flow dudes. So it was Ben Gore, Kevin, the guy on Traffic.
Coakley?
Yes, Kevin Coakley. I'm trying to think who else. I had a couple people. Exactly. Like, I'm already like, I don't even remember who the hell was on. There was a dude who was on Welcome. Sanchez. Guy skated Dumpsters as a part. They had a cool little team, though, but they took a lot of the Cons Flow dudes and started this little company. It was pretty cool, super small, but I guess it never really gained any traction. They had Mandible Claw do one of the first edits, and I think they were supposed to be like quarterly edits, and that never happened. Again, just my theory is small brand, not a lot of money. So it was almost cool. And they had to change their slogan too, because it started off, I forget what it started off at, and then it went to like something else, but it was State Footwear, and they had a slogan, and they had to, it was like the free and independent state, and I don't know if they had to change that because of independent trucks or something. There was something they had to change the slogan, which once you have to do something like that, it never really works out.
Tough one.
Yeah, just minimal shoes. They didn't really bring much new to the table.
Yeah, I think they were in that, like, no disrespect to them, but I feel like they were kind of in that, like, small shop introductory line when a lot of shops were first opening it up, and it's like, all right, well, we can't get open with any of the big shoe brands, so we'll have this. It was like the Vox of, whatever the next generation was, where it was like, all right, well, you get those, you have an account with Vox, you have that for a couple years before, and then you build onto adding these other brands on. Yeah,
which is a thing. There's some brands you see in shops, and it's like, okay, well, where's the other shop now? Like, you don't have this, you don't have, you don't have Nike, you don't have Adidas, you don't have Cons, so it's like, oh, they have these brands, so what shop's around the corner? Usually that's, doesn't mean there's anything wrong.
Get shoes.
Yeah. It's, and it was crazy too, so Chris Athens was on State, and I guess he'd be probably one of the biggest guys that was out of that, and he went to Cons. So, comes full circle, I guess. Take our guys, we'll take yours.
Yeah.
But it gets hard, because when you're small, like, and they're super small. I'm going to say out of the whole group of shoes that we're doing, they were the smallest. Mm-hmm. And it's super hard when you have that small brand with very little revenue coming in to do anything. I think the dude Kevin was doing it out of his garage, at least at one point, which is insane. So it's hard to pay riders.
Like every sole is a new mold, which is more money you're putting out, and everything you're putting into it is just more and more and more money.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know how the whole shoe thing works, but right, that's your money is the sole molds and then the uppers. So basically, it was a lot of repetition, a lot of just changing colorways. I'm an asshole, but the shoes were very lackluster as far as padding and everything. That was one of the first pairs of shoes I started having foot issues with. Again, it could have just been age creeping up on me. Yeah, I don't know, they weren't great. They reminded me of like Declines.
Yeah, exactly. Like just generic vulcanized.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, not to shoot it down, but it's just like that's what I saw when I saw those. Like, and I've been a cupsole guy for 15 years at this point. Like, I can't do that kind of stuff anymore.
Yeah, that was because they were the shoes. One of the ones that kind of started me leaning towards cupsoles, because like I said, my feet were killing me, and it sucks because it was a really cool small little thing that it's almost like, oh, I want to support this. They have this cool little underground team. Another issue I think that happened with them was they have this team. They didn't give anybody pro shoes who was on. Like there was no Kevin Coakley shoe, no Ben Gore shoe. But later on there was a Fred Gall shoe, which that's cool. Mm-hmm. Really cool, but it's just, he came out of nowhere and had a shoe on it, and Matt Rodriguez had a shoe which looked like a slipper, and they fit really bad. I bought a pair of those, like, cool, I'll support this, and they...
And it sucks because it's in that window of, like, before Fred was having that resurgence and, like, kind of all, like, putting out that part and, like, all over Instagram and, like, getting all that exposure.
Yeah, it was, I don't know, the brand was just... It's still weird to me that you have Ben Gore on, and even when these guys were hitting, like you said, like, it was, like, after the fact. Mm-hmm. And you had Ben Gore putting out all these parts and doing all this stuff, and it would have been cool if one of those shoes, again, financially, I don't know how that all works. If it's, you pay them a couple bucks per shoe or something, I don't, in my head, it's like, well, then charge an extra $1 for the shoe and give them that $1. Like, it would have been cool to have something where, you're supporting not just a brand, but like a skater, and, so I don't even know if they're really still around. I went on the website and it said like 2022 on it. Mm-hmm. So who knows? I think Brian Powderly was on. He still might be on. I don't know. It's just
I'm trying to think of like
there's
the
only
last
so much you
footage
can
I
do.
saw of him if he was wearing or what he was wearing, but I can't remember.
I think he had Vans on. And it's just again too when you have these small brand. It's almost like having a small skate brand where their guys weren't really. You would if they rode for bigger companies, you could get exposure that way. But they were all in all these little underground companies, and they're older, so there's only so much they're doing and so much exposure they're getting. So kind of, I guess, sets the brand up for failure. There's only so much. And they were in Zoomies, so that was the thing too. But the dude Kevin was very open about it, and it was kind of like I got to do this. So it was cool he didn't hide it, like, and you need to stay around, and every other company's in there. If it helps you do more, then great, but it didn't.
Yeah, it sucks when you're at that point. When you're a shoe brand, like, that's your goal. You want as many eyes on it as possible.
Yeah. Especially with a shoe brand, because you're buying that for anybody with feet. I mean, you're selling it for anybody with feet. The cool stuff stays around when you have, like, the non-cool money, which is a lot more of it coming in. Then you can do all your cool stuff. But I guess they were too cool for the not cool people, and I don't know. But it failed, so... it just sucks, but my 2 cents would have been to just give some of the other riders their shoes.
Yeah.
Or if a new shoe came out, let one of them.
I'm sure that concept will come up again soon enough.
Yeah. Huge concept. It's honestly a lot of it, though, where you have these riders, and it's like, I don't really care about the brand, but I like this guy skating, so I'll get one just to, support him.
Yeah.
But yeah, and the shoes were trash.
Do you want to try for another one?
Yeah, we could just stop beating the dead horse that is state. They're beaten enough as it is. All right. So we'll go into here. This might be a quick episode, Mitch. All right. Awesome one. Emerica.
Oof. So, did you check the website to see if they're still around?
I'm sure they're still around. I haven't owned an Emerica shoe over 20 years. I haven't owned anything Emerica.
Yeah, Reynolds threes.
Oh, Reynolds, yeah. Which were the ones like they were like all brown, look like work boots? Those that was around 2000, right? 2001.
Yeah, are you talking like OG Reynolds ones?
No, it was the ones with the rubber toe cap. Were those ones? No.
Yeah.
That's it. That's what I had. So that's
Wow. Yeah, so I had the twos and the threes a bunch. The threes were like the Volk ones that had like the little diamonds on the top eyelet. They were like super slim.
yeah. I remember that shoe.
Definitely shot myself in the foot wearing those for as long as I did. But they skated great.
What? Okay, well that's a good a take into this because I do remember the non-skate shoe brand's shoes actually skating well at one time. They might skate well now. I haven't had them in forever. But how long ago did you have those?
Oh, that was like 2003, 2004 maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. I saw some ones that came out recently. Somebody got a box from them, and it was like horrendous, like giant rubber, like back to like early 2000s, like full giant rubber toe piece, and like where that Leo Romero shit that was like memed out in the last couple weeks. That like all silver one looks like a Pee Wee Herman shoe. Dude, like what the who the fuck is buying a shiny silver like slip on?
Yeah. Can you imagine like being a shop like, hey, we're all tight on money. Let's go get the silver Leo Romero slip on. This is gonna kill it.
Yeah, and Leo Romero's got to be in his late 30s. You're a grown ass man in your late 30s wearing a shiny silver shoe.
Can't all be Jim Greco.
But that's what it is. It's like 2002 Jim Greco shit.
Yeah, that's a rough one. I will say there was I wouldn't have bought them, but it definitely piqued my curiosity as there's a pair of America's Now. Shake Junt did a collab with whatever shoe it is, and they almost look like a Club C Reebok.
Okay.
Kind of. A little bulkier, but I was like, oh, these don't look bad. Like, this is actually something cool, but there's nothing on that brand that I can relate to. Like,
No. The only thing I know about America right now is that John Dixon rides for them, and as much as I'm not like super into that type of skating, that dude's like that switch flip and like everything about that dude, like skate style is good. But
yeah, it's funny, Mitch. I'll a little story here off topic, but speaking of John Dixon, so I remember when Birdhouse: The Beginning came out. Do you remember that video?
Kinda, sorta. I know they gave it away with Deck.
It's a stupid video. But at that point, I was like, I watch every video that came out. And I remember I was embarrassed to go in to get it. So I gave my friend money, and I said, can you just go into KCDC for me and get this video? I can't walk in there and get this. But I was like, I just want to see it. And I remember I wanted to see Steve Nesser's part in it, was what I wanted to see. And off topic with that, and then my friend was like, oh, Steve Nesser, that's the dude with the tribal tattoo. Why do you want to watch that? And I was like, well, he's good. It's actually like a bird. I don't think but it looks tribal. So I was like, all right, I get it. He goes in and comes out, and he's like, yeah, they were like laughing at me when I bought this. And
but they bought it to have it.
Yeah, and we bought it. We watched it, and I think every guy's ender was in the intro, and the only dude who stood out, because even Steve Nesser's part, I was like, oh, this is cool, but his other stuff's better. Was who the hell were we just talking about? John Dixon. And I was like, this kid's really good.
I don't even remember John Dixon being on Birdhouse.
Yeah, and I was like, he isn't an image that I'm looking towards or anything, but he was legit good. And I was like,
yeah,
this kid's the best one in this video. And yeah, sure as shit, it's, John Dixon now, and he's on Death Wish, and, all that stuff that fits him. He's on, like, the best of that, so pretty crazy.
Yeah, that's like... He literally might be the only person who's currently on America that I know who they are. Like, I know there's a bunch of, like, the Dakota Servold.
He's on Foundation.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like they just make the same shoe over and over again. And
yeah, it's just some, like, generic Volk shoe or some, like, overly... And now they're trying to get into that, like, early 2000s nostalgia, making, like I said, the ugly giant rubber toe cap, and it's rough. But I don't even know how you come back. Like, they were so big at one point when it was like the this is skateboarding era. Like that team, like everybody on there was ridiculous. And admit, like, not everybody there was like my favorite people, but it was still people that like everybody knew, and there was something for everybody in that video. And it was like we sold tons of those shoes, even like the shitty team shoes. We would sell tons of them, like because every kid in tight jeans wanted, that skated Baker boards wanted those shoes.
Which is crazy. They went from like the top of the top, honestly. And they were around forever, even when it was like, Soltec, and they started Emerica, and it had a totally different image. It was just basically like...
Yeah, it was like the skate version of Etnies. Because they had kind of lamed out Etnies.
I think Etnies, they probably always kept Etnies, like making flip-flops and sandals and surf stuff.
Yeah, I think there was like a short period where Etnies didn't happen. And they were only doing America, and then they came back, they started doing S, and then they brought Etnies back. And that's when it was like...
I wonder.
Branched out. I feel like there was a period, because I feel like that's when I was like working at the surf shop, and because like when I first started, we were doing Etnies, and it was like, MC Raps and Scams and like the skate shoes, and that then they transitioned over and moved everybody to America or S. Like the Sal 23 moved from Etnies to S.
Yeah, because I remember then they had, like, I remember when Etnies, they had Smolik on and Alyssa Steamer.
Mm-hmm.
And they had that, like, trying resurgence, like, we're going to try and rebrand this.
Yeah, I think that's what it was.
And
I think there was like a name dispute or something. And they, like, couldn't make shoes for a little while. Something with, like, a trademark or some shit. But, like I said, that was
some surfer out
so
there.
Everything was...
Yeah, so it's weird, because now, do you ever see any Soltec, even, let's say, Etnies? I don't see... Emerica, sorry. I don't see anybody with... I saw one... Actually, can't lie. My friend Chris, his friend, only wears Emericas. And he had the ones that look like Club C's. I don't know what the model is, but he had them in all black suede.
I'm trying to think. There's a few shops around here that maybe carry them. I'm actually going to see a bunch of shops this week. I'm going to be interested. I'm going to be like peeping all their walls to see like how many shops carry America, how many shops carry this, like just to see, because now I'm like I don't really ever look at that part of the store. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to be interested to see like who carries what.
Is there anything that would make you want to buy an Emerica shoe?
Not really, because I don't know. A lot of this perfect example is they reissued that Mark Johnson shoe. Skate Shop Day last year. They did it's like a white suede, the MJ1. But again, they don't have Mark Johnson. So why are you making this dude's pro shoe without him?
Right.
Like, it's just weird.
And that's like, I wonder if he gets paid somehow on the side. That's like the Mike
Yeah,
Carroll
or do they like change it just enough? Like that Costin, I'm sure we'll get into S at some point, but I'm sure like that first Costin 1 reissue that they did, they called like the 9-7 or something. It's terrible.
Oh, did they do that name too? Because that's what Vans did. They had the 96, and it was a Mike Carroll, but it said 96 on the tongue.
Yeah, I think they call it like the 197 or something.
Wow, it's so weird. So the Mark Johnson, and it wasn't the tilt, because I remember once he was off, then that shoe became the tilt. I believe it was a tilt.
It was like similar, but it wasn't the exact same shoe. But America reissued that shoe like in like the early 2010-ish, I think. Because I remember seeing Jake Phelps wearing it all the time. But it was like when MJ was on Lakai. Like it was super weird. But yeah, and now they have another colorway of them coming out. I'm like, I just don't understand the reissue without the person's name on it.
And I think Emerica is so far gone. Like, as far as in their image, like, I don't think you could throw money at Rodrigo Peterson off of Nike, whatever he's on. And you know what I mean? Like, you can't go get somebody cool and put him on Emerica.
It's shit. Oh, you know what? Who I think is on there that I actually really like, too, is that Braden Hoban kid that's on Toy Machine.
Okay. Street League kid.
Yeah, but he's incredible. But, like, again, he falls into that Toy Machine Foundation genre of, like, he's not a tight pants kid, but I feel like that's all I see is, like, era is pretty gone at this point. Like, nobody's really running those kits.
At least here, I guess we're in that East Coast bubble, too, so in California, it could be, like, super big.
I don't know, I feel like I don't even see it on, like, social media anymore.
It's so weird. But it's like they're just so in that lane. I don't think they could do anything.
Yeah, I don't see them making like a, putting on a super tech skater and making like a, baggy pants, pulling some dude that skates for butter goods and putting him on.
Yeah, and it's weird. It's like they have zero. It seems like, there's no interest. They have their lane. They stay in that.
That's where they want to be at. Yeah, because I guess that's what they have S for, is for like more tech dudes that wear.
So I guess there's nothing else I could do to change America. I almost think even they have their thing they're looking for. They have their brand, their people that they're looking to attract, and at least they're consistent.
Yeah, I mean, shit, everything has gone so full circle that who knows, 4 years from now that tight pants shit might come back, and then all of a sudden they're like the most popular thing out.
I didn't put them in the hat, but I'm going to just like, okay, so America or Globe, what would you rather buy?
I think I'd wear a pair of Americas first.
Definitely.
Sorry, guy.
Yeah, it's but I didn't put them. That was when we could have put Globe and Osiris. Osiris is not in here either. I think they're beyond help. But we'll go on to the next one, Mitch. Let's see. And all right, here we go. You ready?
Oh man,
Lakai. Now I'm going to say, I recently, within the past year, whenever those Griffin Gas Telford Highs came out, I bought a pair. And I bought a pair, I did one shove it in them, and I took them off and gave them to somebody in my town. That was...
weren't feeling them?
They were horrible. They just felt like crap. Yeah, they felt like cheap shoes. And it was $100 for these damn things.
Yeah, I hate to say it, but I felt the same way. But whenever they reissued the Manchesters 2 or 3 years ago, I bought them because I used to like them, and it just wasn't the same.
Yeah, it's funny because this goes into where, like, so at the time I was wearing Dunks, Tiagos, which are like super well-made shoes. At least the Tiagos, I'm going to say, are super well-made shoes. The Dunks, they get inconsistent.
Yeah,
same with the Tiagos, but I think I was ahead at the peak of the Tiago line, at that time. So they were super well-made shoes, and it's like I put these things on and they felt like cardboard. They just felt shitty. The shape felt crappy. And I remember I used to wear Telfords all the time, but they just didn't feel right. Didn't like them. They felt like the toe was like pointy. It just wasn't an enjoyable 38 seconds that I had them on. I haven't changed out of a shoe faster in forever. That was like 2 seconds, done.
Just knew it wasn't for you.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think Lakai was for me since Fully Flared. I think that video kind of killed it all for me.
Honestly, for me, it was a little before that. It was as soon as they started doing all the select, where every shoe was just a Volk version of whatever shoe they made. And there was like nothing else in the line but these super thin Volk shoes.
I remember, which is funny because I remember when they came out, and then it was like a lot of shoes were going vulcanized, was like the in thing, like half cabs were coming back. Anthony Papalardo, who was from Long Island, I was friendly with him, and I remember going over to his apartment, and he was like, I was like, dude, so when are the Lakai Volks coming out? Like, they have to be doing something. And he's like, all right, don't tell anybody. And he's like, you're my size, right? And I was like, yeah. And he pulls out a pair of sample Rick Howard Selects. And he's like, here, you can have these. He's like, don't sell them. Don't tell anybody where you got them. And I was like, oh, okay. And I remember having them, and I remember it was like, oh, these are cool, but I didn't like them. It was funny, because they were like too skimpy. I wasn't used to it. But I remember the Mike Carrolls that had the vulcanized sole, when those came out, those I liked. I liked those a lot. But they were shitty.
They were like half cab height, those ones?
Yes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had like the skate fairy ones or whatever they had.
Okay. And the ones I had, the first ones, they had like suede, or like a suede type material stuck to the vulcanized for like the toe cap. It was really weird. They might have been brown. I don't know if I'm confusing them. But I remember like, like the toe caps on the vulcanized shoes, it has like the front and then...
Yeah.
So that was like a suede-ish material, and it didn't really stay on too well. But they were good. I really was super hyped to get those. And I remember Lakai being huge. Lakai was like the coolest thing in the world. And then,
I definitely had a bunch of pairs.
Yeah. It was tons. I remember that. It was like, that was it. It was like the new action.
Yeah, especially because you were friendly with Anthony, so it was like, it made sense to just support the dude you're, hanging out.
Yeah, it was really cool to see and hear from him from the beginning of it. of like, hey, don't tell anybody, but there's this new shoe company that's going to come out. They asked me to ride for it. They asked when, and he said no. They asked me to ride for it. I'm doing it, and it was cool too. So before he got on, he was on Vita, and I remember he was like, "Do you want to buy all my Vitas?" And I was like, he had the Nada shoe in the brown with the powder blue, and I was like, yes. And he's like, these are the last two in existence. He's like, they don't have any more. They're making other colorways. This is it. And he was like, $50 a pair. And I was like, done. And so I had two pairs of the best thing about him getting on Lakai was I got to buy his Nadish Vitas. But I remember he was like, yeah, so they don't have shoes yet, so they were sending him DVSs.
Makes sense.
Yeah, and I remember him too, like, hey, you want to buy these day ones off of me for $40? And I was like, okay, cool. So it was kind of sick, like, had the cheap shoe hookup. But I remember he was wearing DVSs for a little bit, and then they gave him the shoes. First, Mike Carrolls were sick. The reissues, remember they reissued those recently and they sucked? It like wasn't the same shoe?
Yeah, it was definitely... I'm sure it was a cost-cutting thing.
Yeah, or the warehouse and molds are gone and they had to do whatever, but I remember that. Like, I saw people getting those black ones. They were like black and blue when they reissued them, right? Mm-hmm. And it was just weird, but I remember when all those shoes came out, and it was like groundbreaking. And they had that little heel strap on the bottom of the heel. It was red on the old Lakais. That was from like Prada. They took that, and it was really, really sick. And then Fully Flared, I think, just killed it. And then when Anthony left, Alex Olsen left, like JB left, like all these dudes left that were cool. And it was kind of like, this is like, I don't care about the rest of these dudes, Yeah,
and it sucks because Lakai's one that I would like. I pull for them. Like I would like to see them succeed, just because I have such like a. In my head, like, there's this thought about, like, oh, well, this is this thing that, like, they built themselves, and it's, like, the same dudes that built Girl and Chocolate themselves.
Should be, we should all be supporting it, like, in theory, and it's just, like, I feel like they, inspired by skateboarding, I used to always say, like, man, it would be sick if Lakai put on Ricky Oyola at that time or something, like, an actual, this is going to sound bad, but it's somebody who skates, like, I'm pushing, I'm skating. Julio would have been cool on it. Not that they would have, but it would have been sick to have Hughes on iPath or whatever, but to have somebody, an actual, I just think it was so, like, high-profile, Cali-style skater, X Games level tricks or whatever, it was just like...
Yeah, but like Anthony was the standout in that group.
And they hated it. From what I heard, too, he used to tell me about, like, Ty Evans and, like, telling him, like, you're a cult skater. Like, that doesn't mean anything. Like he would say they'd go to skate and he'd be like, I'm not filming that, it's not good enough, stuff like that for Fully Flared. And for that video, his part stood out to me and made me want to buy shoes. Him and Alex Olsen were the two parts that I wanted to watch. The rest of it, I was like, what the fuck is this? Like,
Yeah, I think it was Bill or somebody said something where, and like me not being a New York dude at all, was like, it's weird that like you filmed him in like Times Square to intro that part.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not a, like, to the, like, generic person, like, yeah, okay, that shows that he's from New York or whatever, but that's not what anybody from New York would pick.
Do you remember the Papalardo Manchester?
Yeah.
But it was just, like, black with... But it was funny because he was, like... He hated it that they had the subway thing on the inside. It said, like, NYC on it, and he's like, I'm not from the city. I can't claim this. This sucks, but it's on the shoe.
Yeah.
Like, he got it. Like, I get it, it's going to sell shoes, but I can't claim this. This sucks. But, I mean, even now, it just seems like... And I like Vincent Alvarez, but the shoes are just... I don't know what happened. If every designer for them ran away and went elsewhere...
Well, that dude that was designing for them that was, like, crushing it went and left and went to New Balance.
Who's that Jeff Mickett?
Yeah,
Mike It. Who's an amazing skater, too.
Yes. Yeah. See that Via Marina part?
Because it is weird, like, their shoes. I saw some other shoe that came out recently. It looks like it's, like, unzippered.
Yeah, that weird toe dye.
Yeah. And with them, too, I almost bought that Javante design shoe, or if it's a Javante colorway, I don't know what it was. I'll put it up on the screen, but there was one as a Volk shoe they did. It had, like, a soccer toe with, like, the embroidery. God, I don't remember what it's called. But They used him for the ad campaign. They were like black with gum and a white Kai flare thing. And it was almost, I was like, oh, I almost want to get them, but I'm sure they're just terrible shoes. And
well, that's even like with that new Griffin Gas shoe that's coming out. Like, good for them for giving that dude a shoe. He deserves it. Like, he's one of your guys that like you should be spotlighting. Like, highlight those new people.
Yeah, at least they do that. I'm going to say in their favor, they're taking these dudes and striking while the iron's hot. Like, oh, this is a dude who's relevant. He does stuff. He has a following. Okay, cool. We give him a colorway, but now we're going to give him a shoe. And the shoe looks like a Fila from what I've seen. It's cool. But if I want to get a shoe that looks like that, you know, I can get a Nike or, you know what I mean? Like, that I know is going to skate better. I hate to say it. That's like that Simon Banero shoe. I don't know what the hell that thing was. It looked like the hiker. It was like, it's crazy looking.
Okay.
Cool, they tried something different, but dude, it's nuts. But he's legit good.
Yeah.
I just kind of wish they made like the safe for work version and then that version, because it looks insane. Like, it doesn't look like you'd be able to skate it. It looks like it's for like going in the mud.
But yeah, that like new generation of dudes that they've got, like, there's so much potential there. They just have to like kind of find that lane again, which hopefully they do. Like I said, I want to see them do well. Like, I don't dislike anybody there, and like I want to see that. Of all the like skate focused or, you know, skate, you can't say skater owned, but like, you know, skater run brands, like those are kind of, that's one I want to see do well.
Yeah, I'm gonna say too, they've done the most to almost get me. Like, remember when Tony Hawk was on and they did the proto? Like, which was like an airwalk.
Yeah,
like,
that's like before my time, so I was like, what is this goofy looking shoe?
Yeah, and I was like, I want these. I want these big time. And then I was like, oh, they're $100. I'm not buying them, which is funny because basics are $100. I'll buy those all day. Different times, I guess, you know, back then. But I was like, I kind of want these. They got me with that. There's a couple times they've had me like almost at buying them, and then just no. They got me once. They got me on the Griffin Gas Telford, and I wonder if they even keep the Telford in the line now. There's so much you can do with that shoe, colorways and whatnot. But that's one at least they were smart enough to bring back. Like Secret Tape said, they should bring back the original Manchester. I think that would help out a ton. Like, not redo it, actually bring back the first Manchester. That you had those? The first ones?
The originals?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
With the cups.
Not like I remember Grandpa he had like stacks of them. He had like 15 pairs deep. Like, he would just stockpile them because he knew one day they weren't going to make them anymore, and he would literally, like, every time we would get stock in, he'd buy every pair in his size.
Well, I remember. So those were sick. I'm going to even say Solokai. Those were super cool. They were too small for me at the time. My pants were too baggy, and the bottoms would go under the back of the shoe, so I never got to enjoy those. But the original Staples, super cool. Like, I remember being so...
I couldn't wear those. I wasn't a big all-leather person.
Well, they came out with the suede. They had the brown suede. They had the gray suede.
Okay. I just remember the all-black.
I remember the black leather. That was like...
That was the staple of
They were like Filas.
Yeah.
You know what's funny, too, is... And then they had the Nylas. They had the Sokas, which was like your, you know, DC Manteca. I think then, too, there wasn't a lot of the... So if you wanted a shoe that looked like that, you'd have to go to, like, Foot Locker and get a non-skate shoe, which wasn't going to hold up. Like, the actual skate shoes then held up better than the non-skate shoes. And they would take some of those as inspiration, and then, you know, thicker sole, different materials, suede. So I think that was the advantage they all had then. Like, they could... Sure, you can go buy a pair of Filas or a pair of Reebok Club C's or something, but... You can get this, which pretty much looks pretty close to it. We made the skate version of that shoe, even though it's a Lakai. You know, once I think the skate company started coming out, oh, we'll make skatable versions of our shoes that you guys are, you know, every other company's copying. I think that hurt a lot of these brands. Lakai was cool, and they're the ones that I, out of any of these, that I've bought recently. So is there anything you want to add about Lakai or anything you would do differently to...
No, I think they're trying different things, which I like to see. You know, like giving people pro shoes that deserve it, that are like on the come up still. Like, and it's smart because like I wish there was more people that weren't Girl and Chocolate on Lakai. Like kind of like how like Fully Flared was like a mix of people from all over the place. It wasn't just the trap of like Habitat shoes where it was like, no, you have to only people on Habitat skate.
At least they didn't name it Girl Chocolate Shoes.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like it's kind of like
But
they did something different, but it's they like if they can kind of get out of that trap of like if they could pull a name that wasn't. I mean, I'm sure there's people on there. I'm just not thinking of them off the top of my head because like all the pro shoes that I'm thinking of are like Vincent Alvarez and
Stevie
Perez. Does he still have a shoe?
Rick Howard, Mike Carroll, Griffin Gass. I mean, this is all, like you said though, it is all Riley Hawk is.
Yeah, I guess Riley's still on there.
I mean, he may as well be on Emerica, but I guess they have their Emerica style dude. Then they have all the Krell Tap dudes. I don't think they have anybody East Coast. It would be cool if they...
Well, that's why I like that they were giving Joey shoes before he got on ASICS. Like, it was something different. He wasn't another Muni kid wearing DCs. Like, it stuck out because he was wearing something different.
See, you know, again, with them, it's cool that they had Griffin Gass who wanted old, I want Telfords. Those are sick, and they went and remade the shoe. He kept saying, like, they make them, they'll sell, make them this. It's cool that they did that. Sucks that for whatever reason the shoe wasn't that good, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, and it could have been like a COVID factory thing, like, because they came out during that time.
You know, it's funny, Mitch. I wonder if I did like them, like if that Shove It fucking, you know, was like the best thing I've ever done. If I would have been permanently like, okay, I'm going to keep wearing these shoes, I think I would have been way more into it. So I don't know if there would have been a different shoe from them. Maybe to, you know, they're definitely at the higher end of the spectrum.
Yeah,
definitely
the non-corporate.
Yeah, it's like so definitely right now if we're making our list, let's just say, you know.
Well, let's not start making tiers.
Well, but yeah, I mean they're ahead of Emerica and State.
Yeah,
you know, I would say for me personally, leaps and bounds ahead. On to the next one. Next up, who do we have? I know which two are left.
And they're both good ones.
I think we can save them, Mitch. We're going to... here we go. Action.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Low-hanging fruit. Again, our favorite thing here is low-hanging fruit.
When you're dumping every pair at $20, did you stop?
Yeah. Here's your chance to get a non-Guy Mariano endorsed Guy Mariano reissue shoe for $20 off their website.
Everything from the jump on this version was just shit show.
Awful. Terrible. And it's, you know, you would think like, oh, Action, they've been around 9 times. They should get it right. No. There was
as much as you hated Action 2.0, like the Circa version, I was here for it. I loved those shoes. They were great. And everybody on the team was here. So it was kind of like, it was different for me because I was seeing it locally and like, oh, everybody that I hang out with is, you know, wearing Actions. And like, dude, the Heritage shoe and there was a couple other ones that were so good.
The coolest thing about the version, I'm almost going to say that was 3.0. Because I remember there was 1.0. 2.0, Kareem was still on it. And he had like the KCK whatever. I think the third one, but they kept Kevin Taylor on, right? Kevin Taylor was still on, and that was sick to me. So that was still like, the team got a little weird. You had, Kyle Nicholson was on. Yeah,
because that was like, Plame was the team manager, so it was like, it was Manny, Kyle, KT, Maldonado, and then there was like random ones, like Jeff Lenosi was on, Mike York was on.
Yeah, and they had like really weird color. It was like black shoes with blue and orange, and
there were some crazy colorways.
But the coolest part about that, though, you had KT and you had Mike Maldonado, who were on before. Mm-hmm. At least you had, like, they weren't the hugest names anymore, but at least it kept them.
They were original Action riders, yeah.
Yeah. Manny Santiago, horrible. The Miho, or whatever his shoe was, he put him on a brand. It's destined to go under. But not as bad. This current 5.0, 6.0, whatever we're going to call this one, shit show from day one.
The guy running it was some, like, old random dude in his garage, like, just posting weird shit on social media. Like, it was
Yeah, he looked like a dude who sells bootleg Peloton bikes. And they had like, I remember like who was on it? Sierra Fellers. Like they had like the initial lookbook, and it was Sierra
Yeah, it was
Fellers.
all
And
these again like these weird tight pants dudes that like don't look anything like you would think. Nick Merlino.
yeah, yeah, it was super random, and I
And
remember
they tried to
posted
backpedal real quick and be like, "Oh, we just hired these guys to shoot the photos. They're not like the team." And I'm like, "What the fuck were you thinking to use? Like, then get random models. Don't use known skaters."
It was funny too because they had one of the first shoes was a Volk, like a Volk
Yeah,
slip-on
a
style, like
slip-on.
era shoe, and it was like, who? Why would Action make that?
Yeah, and then
You
they
know?
did like an era, like you said, like a three lace, super generic.
I remember I posted in the comments because Action is something that was very sacred to me, Mitch.
Yeah,
When it started, this was like when they first started. I remember wearing these shoes. Like I wanted them over Nikes to wear out. I wanted them. I didn't care. I was like, these are the dopest shoes. The original
Yeah,
case, the
Gino.
creams.
BA, like
Yeah,
had all the
it was
cool
even
people.
before he was on. Even like when it was just Gino, Kareem, and Guy Mariano. That was when it first came out, and they had the first Kareem shoe. I remember they came out this brown pair and a brown with like red highlight. It was like, oh my god, it's like a work boot. They had the gray Kareems. Guy Mariano had the Aries and something else. It was like a running shoe, super
I was gonna
sick.
say the Aries was the second one, I think.
Yeah, yeah, because he had first one was the I guess what Action now is calling the Genesis. I don't even know. We just called him Guy Mariano, so I don't remember what.
Yeah, what the name? Like I know Gino had like the Islander or whatever.
Yeah, so sick, man, and it was the coolest shit. Their gear was really cool. Everything was super cool about it, and yeah, it just went downhill. So it was cool to see that they were trying to do like, hey, we're going to reissue the Guy Mariano magically without his name on it. But it was like, oh, cool, and they did like limited numbers, like on the insole they had numbers, and a lot of people. I remember it was a pre-book thing, and I thought people were going to get ripped off. I didn't even think they'd get shoes, and it was like months later they did get their shoes,
Dude, I bought them.
and they fit like shit.
They got me.
Oh, did you get a pair?
Yeah.
Which
They're-
ones did you get?
The very first ones, the white and yellow and navy.
And how bad did they fit?
Oh, they're horrendous. Dude, the sole was made out of a rock.
It's and what were they, like 120, $100?
I think they were $100.
Pre-order $100. So they basically made that brand off of like GoFundMe money, kinda.
Yeah, where it was like, yeah, it was like 6 months or something before he got them in hand. And they had already put a pre-book up for the second pair before the first one shipped, and I was like, something's shady here.
Yeah,
And then I got them in hand and knew right away how bad they were.
because I was so hyped. I was like, oh my god, if they just came back as a legacy brand, like that's it. That's all Action needed to do at this point. Just come back with a legacy brand. Come back with Kareem. Try and do some reissues. Do maybe one clip of Kareem skating would have been enough. Get Eric Pupecki. Do a colorway with him and just have him even holding a shoe. There were so many things they could have done to make this, and just remake the old ones, put them online, limited quantities, and they blew it. Broke my heart. It was a disaster. I was so upset, and I remember leaving an Instagram comment too. Like that's what I said. The first thing was like it's like Sierra Fellers, and I was like, dude, how do you bring back Action with Sierra Fellers and some dude on LE Life Extension?
Yeah. There were so many weird things. Like, and then Kareem was involved, but then he wasn't involved, and then they were like snapping at each other on Instagram for like people to watch, which was just like
that was wild,
entertaining for everybody else, but such a bad look.
Yeah, it was terrible. Mickey Papa, like that's who they put on.
Jesus Christ!
Like you're not even going after dudes who would kind of embody Action. Like that's the farthest thing from Action is Mickey Papa. Yeah, it was just like they got to be kidding me. Like this is just doing skateboarding a disservice right now. This is so bad.
And right after they launched, like I want to say like 3 to 4 months after they hit stores, whatever stores bought them, because no one around here bought them, I found them at Ross. So they were already like dumping shit because they must have ordered way more than any shop was taking. So they were stuck sitting on inventory and had to get rid of it right away.
Which ones did you see there? Were they the vulcanized?
All of them. The vulcanized ones, the like, not like the guy one, but everything else. And like in multiple sizes, like a lot.
It was like just the biggest. They had like fashion models doing this. It was so bad. It just kills me because if like I could have been played like brand manager for that, I think I could have done a lot better. They just had the legacy.
How many good tech skaters are there out there that didn't have like legit shoe deals that you could have scooped up?
Yeah, Yeah, I mean, again, though, if the shoes were as bad, like the soles were, like
Yeah.
he gives. They had Nick Tucker, which was, for
Was
like
he
a
on
week.
there?
He was on there.
I remember
but he was already
with
off
diamond
primitive.
shoes for a while.
Yeah, and that died. Who saw that coming?
He like quit as soon as his shoe came out. Like that was like super dick move. I remember that.
So crazy, man. All these shit shoe companies. But Action was one from
Yeah,
growing
that's
up,
like
how
the-
it was like, yeah. I mean, 8 times you're done, dude. You got to kind of stick a fork in it eventually.
Yeah, just call if you're gonna do that, call it something else. Like you can't.
For the team they had, there was no point in calling. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, nothing about it. Nothing about the look of the shoes except for the hair, that nostalgia shoe that you were running. And then they like put up pictures of other ones that I guess I don't know if maybe they were. I don't even
There
know
was
if
a
those
couple
ever
that-
came out.
it was weird because they tried to make so they had there was the official they redid.
Mm-hmm.
It just would have been cool if they had somebody. I mean, man, they could have had Fabian Alomar hold up an Action or something, or Joey
Yeah.
Surreal hold up an Action. The official. That's all the ad had to be. You didn't have to have the dude skate.
I was saying, I'm sure that dude didn't even know who those guys are.
Yeah, no.
Action.
But it's that's it. Give Eric Pupecki $500 and tell him to hold up an Action. Done.
But I'm sure the way that bridge was burned with Kareem, none of those guys would have done that anyway.
Oh yeah. I mean, they could have started that from the beginning. It's just the whole thing was shit, complete shit. Worse than any that. It took the cake from a remake from iPath. They made iPath 8.0 look awesome.
Yeah,
Which
it was
is
rough.
Yeah, so bad, and it's just like a scam.
I
feel
can't
bad for
think
them.
of a redeeming quality in that relaunch.
No, nothing. It's just garbage. So hopefully that's done with. And
Yeah.
Mitch, are you ready to get into the last one?
Oh, this is gonna be a good one.
I think there's almost sort of hope for this one.
Yeah, there could be so much potential.
Well, we get to use the Mike picture right now because this is his favorite brand. The Mike McCarthy picture's going up, and we have S, which I used to think was ES, and so did LeVar McBride in his 4-1 checkout when he said, "I ride for ES, I guess."
I get shoes from ES, I guess.
I also thought it was ES. S footwear.
So this is one that I've had a lot of those conversations this week with people. That Krieger shoe, the reissue just came out. We'd always heard that the reason they don't make new molds there or new shoes there is because the sole mold is so expensive that it's really hard for them to make a brand new mold. So they must have spent the money because we saw the sole, and it is the OG Krieger sole. They didn't pull that shit they did with the Custom 1 and just put an existing sole that they already had and recolor it to look like the Costin sole. This is the OG sole that they put on there. It's $130.
It's a lot of padding in there, Mitch.
But I just don't see.
It's like 8
I
shoes
asked
in
a couple
one.
people who I saw had gotten them. Do you still actively skate? Random people that I don't even know. I just saw them posting in skate groups. Oh, I got these Kriegers. I'm like, all right. So do you still currently skate, or did you just get them for nostalgia just to have them? That was a 50-50. Then it was, all right, so if you skate, are you actually going to skate these? Skate them till they have holes in them, that kind of skate them. And some people said yes, most people said no. Then I'm like, all right, so even if you do skate them, would you buy a second pair? Or does that nostalgia for, you got a pair, you're happy with it, you're good there. You don't need to spend another $130 on another pair of these things. And that was where a lot of those people bumped into it of I'm good with one. How do you justify spending that much money to make this sole and make this new mold for this shoe how many times are you really going to be able to remake it, and how many of those colors are really going to sell after the first time that you do it?
Right, and they still have to pay Krieger. I'm sure he gets royalties or they cut him
Yeah,
a check.
because his name's actually on it. Unlike these,
Yeah.
There's a Costin 2 or 3 that's coming out that his name's not on.
And you have you have Wade on the team, Wade DeZarmo, who's super sick, who if they gave him a shoe, I'd even have to think about buying it.
Yeah, I bought his colorway of the Excel Slim. There was a mid
You're just giving these dudes colorways, and that dude should have a full-on shoe. Now, I don't know if that's him. He seems like a pretty modest dude, so I don't know.
Yeah,
but,
just doesn't care.
Yeah, or just, I don't, but he should have a shoe. And they could sell the shit out of, like, not a colorway, because, colorway is cool and all, but, you want that dude's shoe. You don't want just a colorway.
Yeah, and those got him and Tom were, like, on, not from when it first started, but they were the first, like, I think, official people on the team. And that was at least 2014. So we're getting on, like, 9 to 10 years that these dudes have been putting on for your brand, and they still don't have a fucking shoe.
No, and it's like, they should have a shoe. And even TJ Rogers, like...
Yeah, he's got multiple colorways, but who gives a shit?
He's legit. And it's like, I think people would be more... Again, this is like the state thing where it would be sick... a Wade shoe, and I'm somebody who wouldn't touch a pair of S shoes, with Mike McCarthy's dick. Like, I wouldn't keep them away from me. I want nothing to do with them. If Wade had a shoe...
Yeah, I would have to consider it.
I'd at least kick tires, and most likely not. But I would want to. Like, I'd be like, oh, that's sick. And I'm sure there's people out there like, oh, TJ Rogers is sick. I can get his shoe. Colorways are cool, but it's still, you kind of... let them make something, Tom Asta with his, his YouTube game bumping. Like, why not give him a shoe?
Yeah,
try it out.
Imagine you give that dude a shoe right now with his YouTube following. How many pairs are you gonna fucking sell?
Yeah, and these dudes would probably be super hyped to promote their own shoe to make a couple extra bucks.
Even when he was first on and still doing all the street league, and like he got third at Tampa Pro the one year, like in some like generic color of some whatever shoe.
Yeah,
look, I see him all the time. He's wearing Excel Slims most of the time that I ever see him. And then, if they give him another shoe, they're like, oh, go film some shit in these. He skates those. But,
yeah.
So you have a staple shoe. And that staple shoe that used to be a $60 shoe is now $85.
They were god-awful. Mike, I'm sorry if you listen to this. I don't think he does. But, they were the ugliest shoes I've ever seen. And he paid $100 for them. Like,
and they blew out in, like, 2 sessions.
Yeah. They were terrible. That's like, what was it, that dude, Matt, from Delaware, he had some S shoes, and he's saying how the soles, because the ribbing in them was so loose, it was like wiggly, so his foot would move on his board weird. Which I thought was crazy. Like, oh my god, and you're still wearing these things? They're like, I had a herringbone thing, it was so, like, I guess it was so thin that it actually, like, would move.
Like, yeah, Kai swears by those Excel... the re-release, the Excel OGs or whatever. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, to each their own, but it looks crazy. Like, and I skate with plenty of people who wear Lynx, and they're big and puffy, but, like, they still look okay. The Excels are just, like, it looks like a loaf of bread on your feet. Like, it looks like you're wearing those, like, novelty Homer Simpson slippers. Like, just a big old head around your foot.
Well, that's like that contest you had when I came up, and I was watching some dude skate them, and they look like slippers, and I was like, oh, Jesus, like he has the Kai shoes on, like, these are insane.
I remember how bummed Kai was when they did they re-released the Excel Plus with the strap, and they cheaped out and didn't put the logo on the tongue. He thought he got like bootleg shoes. He like bought, because he bought them from like eBay or something, and he thought he got like a bootleg pair, and they just, to cut costs, they put the strap on there, but then they took the logo off the tongue, so it's just a blank, big open square where the logo should be, and it's just blank.
I mean, maybe they're hurting like everybody else. It just seems like it would be cool if they got those guys' shoes. Again, I don't know how much, financially all that stuff runs. Then reuse a sole if that's cheaper, Yeah,
you already have a sole that he likes. Like, they all skate the Excel Slim. Build a different upper on that.
But this is when the core skate shoes have problems because they don't have the money of the big corporate companies to pay these guys. Again, make a shoe, charge an extra $1 or $2, and just something, because even if you're putting this out, then I don't know, cut half of your flow team. I don't know what to do, again, financial restrictions or whatever, but some of these shoe companies, they need to give people shoes. I think that's just like a huge thing. where they just don't. And like I said, you get these guys riding for years and years and years. And
yeah, literally almost 10 years that those two have been on there. And there's no, like, you've pumped out every weird variation of, like, that stupid sole with, like, the bumps on it. And you call it the scheme and the sword and whatever the hell else reissue that you want to make. But, like, nobody buys that. Nobody buys more than one of those.
Yeah, it's weird because it's like they become a legacy brand. Tom Penny's on. That was, they redid his shoe. I guess that kind of made sense. He used to be on, and he's on again, and he still actually skates.
And even that, I'm pretty sure it has that Excel sole.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so weird, man. It was crazy too because when we did the 1 month ASICS review, a lot of people. It was funny. How do these fit? I have XXL Mega Puffy. Like, there was a lot of that. And I was like, people buy these? Like, this is so crazy. Also, a person that would buy those shoes would want to try an ASICS.
Yeah, the only upside that I see in there is, like, people with, like, a stupid wide foot like I have. The options in skate shoes are pretty limited right now.
Which is interesting. And Kai said the same thing, that because I asked Kai, why the hell do you wear these friggin' shoes? And he said they don't hurt his feet.
Yeah, his feet are worse than mine.
Excels.
Like, his feet are super wide, like, just across, like, the bridge of your, like, the widest part of your foot. Dude, my foot's super wide there. His is the same way. So it's like we both struggle to ever, like, so when we find a shoe, we wear the shit out of it. Like, we buy it every time in every colorway and...
Which I get, like, for comfort, just to be able to skate.
Yeah, like, I wish I could fluctuate and wear whatever I want all the time, like, but it just doesn't work like that. That's why I had 30 pairs of the BA Nikes, cause, like, it
right.
wasn't
Well,
the
there's
coolest
people
looking shoe, but it fit and didn't hurt my feet.
Those were, like, ahead of the time, and I've heard of people being, like, super, like, cultish with that shoe, like, this is the best shoe. I loaded up, and people who liked them loaded up on those ways. But, Mitch, anything you want to add to this, or?
No, like I said, none of this was, like, aside from action, was, like, flat out disrespectful. Like, I don't not want to see any of these brands do well, but it's just, it's so hard when, like, everybody comes at you telling you, like, oh, you need to support Skater Run and blah, blah, blah. It's like, first of all, most of these brands that you're talking about are not even owned by skaters anymore. Let's be real. Like, they've all got holdings companies and whatever other shit that, like, are invested in it. It's not, or it's like, the average dude that's talking shit to me but for wearing Dunks is wearing Vans, and it's like,
yeah, they make
just as corporate as Nike is at this point.